It's
Audio's
interesting. I like
on,
that.
video is
Absolutely,
taking
we
a
need it.
moment. Recording.
Don't worry, you're not
on.
gonna have less work.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Could we call the meeting to order, please?
Adequate notice that this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by advertising the annual meeting notice in the official newspapers, providing a copy of the agenda to the newspapers, and posting a copy of the agenda after.
Thank you, Sam. Could I have a roll call, please?
Branson,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Here.
Dougherty.
Yes.
Herb,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Ready, here, Tomco,
Here.
Kaplan, Gabrielle,
Here.
Stenblicker,
Here.
Eckel.
Yeah, here. Approval of minutes. You will note in your package, you had the minutes from both May and June. Disregard the minutes from May. We already approved those. So this is for the approval of the regular meeting minutes, June 24th, 2026.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Jean. I didn't even realize you were here. Hiding behind John. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ted. There's no comments or corrections. Could I-
I wasn't here that meeting.
Ah, there we go. Good point. There any further comments or corrections? I assume the motion stands as amended. Could I have a vote, please?
Branson,
Yep.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Dougherty.
Yes.
Herb,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Ready. Yes. Tomco,
Abstain.
Gabrielle,
Yes.
Stenblicker,
Yes.
Eckel.
Yes. Public comment portion. I look out in the audience. We have no one here from the public to comment, so I shall open and close the public comment portion of the meeting. And move on to old business. Zoning ordinance update. I'm trying to even remember what that was supposed to be about. Sam?
Town for all ages.
Frenchtown for all ages, yes. So that has been council adopted that report. Yeah.
The ordinance for me.
Yeah, we did that, yeah.
Ordinance.
So eight of mine.
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
for you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. So I actually just sent the draft ordinance today to the subcommittee for review.
Okay.
Okay, yay. And that's about all we really need to say about that.
That's all.
So we'll move on to the meat of this evening's meeting, which is going to be discussing first the roof mounted solar ordinance. Now, this was something we started last month. If you recall, you all had a bunch of homework with a bunch of ordinances from other municipalities. There are quite a few. I mean, Darlene can do this better than I can, but we already have roof mounted solar in Frenchtown, although our ordinance is entirely silent on that.
Oh, fun fact, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Randy. When I was working on the aging in place ordinance today, in 2022, we actually did add one line buried under accessory uses, but I think we still need to have this topic discussed. Under accessory uses, we allow roof mounted solar panels shall be a permitted accessory use in all zones. My concern is, it doesn't say. The way it's written, it could be on your house, it could be on your shed, it could be on a pitched roof, it could be on a flat roof, it could be 1 foot tall, 10 feet tall. It doesn't say anything about glare. So I do think
Lacking in detail.
it is. I think we tried to solve something. I honestly don't even remember that ordinance.
I don't either. Aren't we good? I guess they should have switched solar on E-code.
Randy, we're only talking about rooftop tonight because some of the other towns that we looked at included ground array.
Well, that is something we can discuss, I think the questions before us are, and again, Darlene can probably do this better than I can, but what sort of restrictions we might put on roof mounted from height? Is it houses as well as accessory buildings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And whether or not we want to allow ground mounted in any zones at all, or just kick that down the road for another day.
Correct.
You wanna give us a little bit
If
greater
you could
update than that?
Focus on roof mounted, because I think that one's the easiest to solve. In looking at the 4 samples that I sent, you will see a wide variety on the height they allow them to project up from the roof. I also understand differentiating between a sloped roof and a flat roof, because if you're on a larger industrial building, you might have a very different solar panel system setup than you would on a residential home. I also like Blairstown actually had an architectural consideration section about the hardware, the supporting structures, everything should be in a non-reflective surface and consistent with the color scheme of the principal building. I was like, that's actually a really great idea. Glare is another big issue that has come up. I know in other towns I work in, someone just installed solar panels and now they're blinding the neighbor.
Yeah.
On the street.
Is that the sitting standards, darling, in that ordinance? Cause I thought those were decent, and I think
Which municipality are you in?
this one, I think was White Township. I go back through and it's right after the minutes, it starts the document. Oh, it's a White Township.
White Township was one of the ordinances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The township of White, first page, first sentence.
Yeah, so you get through that, we keep going through, and then I think it's.
Toward the end of life?
Now notes and, just, if there's a page number, B, so you do a page number, but
Sorry.
it reads, Blairstown. It's Blairstown.
It is Blairstown.
Sitting standards residential requirements. Those were good, I thought, and were documented. This one, yeah. Sitting standards, I had the roof line.
There we go, yes, right, here. Yeah,
Architectural
yep, yep,
considerations.
yep,
I thought those were
right here.
be more applicable to Frenchtown.
Yes,
Oh.
sorry, Ted.
So I have some questions and I have some comments. Should I mean, if you're still talking, I'll.
Nope, go right ahead.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So, first thing is I just wanted to make sure I understand what accessory use means. It just means any use that isn't like the main purpose of a property. So on a residential.
Right, so solar panels would be accessory to the home.
And at this point, given that we allow solar panels as an accessory use, anything additional that we do. Anything additional that we do is gonna be more restrictive than what we currently allow.
Right now, it's,
It's wide open, right?
yes,
Yeah.
you could do
Okay.
anything, so I think. And as you see from the towns that I provided, they range in the height that they allow. Some of them also have a mention of, you get so many inches
Yeah.
on top of the roof. But you also can't violate the overall height of the zone, which I
Yes.
think is smart.
Yes.
I think that's more geared toward non-residential uses. Because that's where you're gonna see a larger system on a flat roof. But I still think it is wise, because what if you do get someone who wants to install them 3 feet off the top of their sloped single family roof?
Right.
Seems silly, but. You
Yeah.
never know.
It's, yeah, I do think that is particularly aimed toward the flat roofs, because you're not gonna have your solar panel flat, your solar panel is gonna be sloped, and if you've got a sloped solar panel on a sloped roof, although sometimes, your roof slope is this way, but your solar panel is tilted because of the angle of the sun. So I think the, putting some limitations on how much height they can exceed, and capping it at the height for the zone, I think is very, very important. And I did like the part in Blairstown about, the architectural considerations and well, in both cases, architectural considerations, just trying to make sure that they match.
Yeah, so I did pass this around the environmental commission just to see if anyone had comments. And one of the comments that I got was specifically about the non-reflective surfaces. And that, although it sounds nice, what is a non-reflective surface? And that it actually becomes just an impediment for people putting solar in, because figuring out what is meant by this and what is appropriate. is a
It
pretty-
can in fact be blinding to people's homes. I've been
I
in
mean,
some homes.
The solar panels themselves,
Yeah.
definitely, the mounting brackets. If they have to like custom spray paint them just for Frenchtown, like. I think the,
The fact that
feedback.
Blairstown has it probably means they wouldn't have to custom paint them just for Frenchtown.
right,
So this is probably a consideration. I think the glare from solar panels has become
yeah,
an issue in residential communities.
Yeah, there's a section G in this one, I think it says to the extent reasonably possible, solar panels, regardless of whether they are roof mounted or ground mounted, shall be oriented and or screened year round. With the glare is directed away from the adjoining property owners and streets. I
Yeah.
thought that was a good.
No,
And to the extent possible is a good.
Yeah,
sorry, to be clear, I very much liked all of the stuff about trying to avoid glaring into other people's houses. It was specifically the mounting brackets.
okay.
Not, right, those are not where the majority of the glare is coming from. That just seems like it might be getting a little too detailed about. But I did. There were several things about natural screening versus general fences.
I think that
thought
has to do most
wherever,
with ground
yeah, but
mounted.
wherever possible, if we're gonna specify that it needs to be screened, if we can specify living things, which applies to roofs as well, planting trees.
I like the no advertising rule that they had in there too. I mean, but you never know. But the one thing I had a question about, there's a section J that they put there, and I don't know if this is good or not. Okay, I think we're
Holland.
still,
Hold on,
Jay is Holland.
it's gotta be up at the, to be captured.
J is Holland.
Okay.
So if you look at Holland's, they say in here, any solar system minor that has generated no electricity for a period of 12 months shall be deemed to be abandoned and shall be decommissioned within 6 months of such abandonment. Who handles that?
The planner for Holland Township, I will tell you that that is oriented towards our solar farm.
You have,
Yeah.
yeah, Holland has farms. I would say
Yeah.
here, a lot of times, my understanding is it's usually between the homeowner and the installer. The way their contract works, if I bought it outright, or it's a lease to own, or this, so I just, like, who would be responsible in Frenchtown for that type of rule? If we had that in ours,
It strikes me that that
do we
would,
need it for Frenchtown?
No.
Okay,
I don't think you need it for French, unless you're going to start doing solar.
ground.
Well, you-
Ground solar.
yeah, Holland has all that land for that, but,
Well,
yeah,
If we're gonna do, but if, I think if we're just talking roof.
we don't need
I
to
think,
deal with
I
that.
think we can avoid that.
Okay,
You know, if you've unplugged your solar off your roof, then
that's your problem.
that's your problem.
Okay.
So Darlene, I was wondering, whether an issue associated with use of the power, is something that needs to be discussed. So in Holland, under A, is language, that doesn't preclude the sale of excess power back to the utility, but it's not out of the ordinary for, we're assuming that someone puts solar on their house or, you know, in a ground array, and it's for use of their own home or business. And that's not necessarily the case. They could be selling it. So do we want to allow that?
That is an excellent question, so. There's this state program that has to do with solar community.
Community solar, and that's actually what I was getting
Yes.
at, is whether we would want an exemption to, whether we would want to say the solar on your roof, or in your backyard is for your purpose, with the exception of if it's part of a BPU community solar program.
Right, so we just had this issue come up in another town because someone. Didn't tell the entire truth on their zoning permit. Installed the solar panels on a very large building and then came to the mayor to sign their community energy program documentation. So in that town, my opinion was that is no longer accessory. It is, they were actually renting their roof to
Right.
solar
Correct.
people, and it constituted a second principal use, and they
Right.
got a not free trip to the zoning
Right,
board.
so I wonder whether we need to speak to that.
So
It's a good point.
why do we not want people selling electricity?
I'm not taking a position either way, I'm raising whether we want to
Right.
make
Yeah.
a point of that.
It begins, well, there's a line between accessory and principal.
Right.
And if the power on the roof, whether it's flat or pitched, is primarily to serve the house, and yes, you might have months where you generate excess and it goes back into the grid. But you're talking about a different scale,
Right,
different equipment. It's one of these community energy systems.
yeah,
And it is not accessory because they're two separate uses. And the
So-
two that we had in my town, the building received no power.
right,
two totally separate uses.
Right.
So we allow you to sell anything that you grow on your property, right? We have, like, people can grow stuff on like a farm in their backyard and sell it at a
Another farm
stand in front of their house. This strikes me as sort of similar, like they don't have to be using any of the produce that they're growing. They can sell all of it, and we don't stop you from doing that.
One thing doesn't necessarily make the other thing right.
So
No,
You're-
but
so the difference
I'm just
is,
curious what the difference.
you know,
Yeah.
accessory is,
Principal and accessory.
yeah, so accessory means I'm getting some power and if I'm not using it, it goes into the grid.
Mhm.
Principal means, hey, this guy, I've got a deal where they want to put solar panels on my roof and I'm not getting any power, but I don't care because they're paying me some rent essentially for
And,
that.
and
space.
to be able to do that, I'm putting in a pretty substantially large system.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of thinking, I agree with you, Ted. I don't see why we should prohibit that out of
The other thing is,
turn.
What if we didn't prohibit it, but we had it,
Yeah,
have it, maybe there is, if you're in a residential neighborhood, let's just say you're a large building somewhere in town, you
Yeah.
want to do that. I mean, you probably want to consider what the impact would be to neighbors from aesthetics and other things.
right.
Maybe not
Conditional
say,
use?
maybe you have to at least come back before the board, so there's like, I'm not against it, I think it's great what they do with some of these big solar things in these parking lots and this and that, but we should be mindful of
You
who
could
lives
make
next
it,
to it.
you could make it a principal use in your non-residential zones.
Right.
But, just be mindful, for example, the downtown is a mixed use zone.
Well, I guess also in terms of Ted's example, if the homeowner ended up selling $1 million worth of crops from their little home farm stand, it's a very different scenario than if it's like a basket of zucchini,
yes.
right?
We think we've got like $1 million solar arrays that could be built in Frenchtown.
I'll give you an example, like, let's say the IGA want to.
Yeah.
They do have
They have
solar
solar.
on their roof already. Yeah.
Or let's say
The
the
apartment
old apartment building or lower the 7th Street, maybe that building
Our school,
or the school.
our school.
I mean,
If any
it
of
can
us
be
had
a
solar
good
on
thing for
roof,
the,
Absolutely.
all the way around.
that all seemed
Absolutely.
good to
Yeah.
me.
I think one of the constraints that a lot of buildings would come into, and I'm certainly not any engineer, but to put on one of these very large systems, they're heavy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not going to, because I know this was a subject that came up, I think, regarding the high school when I was on the committee for the expansion project up there, but it was just, you can't just plunk a solar. No more than you can plunk a green roof on top of a building that hasn't been designed for it. You can't just plunk a very large solar system on top of a roof that has not been designed to hold on to that, because they're not weightless.
They're very
But
light.
if what we're concerned about is,
£6 a square foot.
It just don't need like mounting brackets and.
Yeah, I mean, we put them on FedEx building, like buildings all over the place
Okay.
and, I've never seen anyone, have to reinforce a roof
Okay.
or anything like that.
Like I said, I'm not an engineer, so now
Yeah.
I've learned something.
Pounds, I can't. No way, they're £6 a square foot.
They are,
Yeah,
that's what you design for, is £6 a square foot.
maybe that includes like a snow load, like in this area, like snow on top of it or something, or,
It's just,
yeah.
that's
Because I
what
mean,
they-
I've picked them up.
Now, is that for like
They're very light.
is that?
It's the ballast, that, usually you put block ballast to hold them
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
So that goes into the weight too. But I've heard 4, 5, 6, but 6 is kind of conservative.
So, but a commercial level one, would that? What, cause we were talking about this and I just don't understand the language, I think, is, if you put in if I put in a solar system on my house so that I would use my own energy and anything that was left over, I would sell back to the grid. Versus, I contacted somebody who was going to put in a big commercial array on, like, what's the difference between I put it on my house and I put in a big commercial array? I don't know what the difference between that is. Is it a weight thing? Is it the
Is there a
infrastructure
difference?
coming and going?
Could be the size of the array,
Yeah, it's a size.
Yeah.
Mhm.
could
Just
be
the
one of
size,
things. the size,
But it's not gonna be bigger than your
The
roof.
infrastructure to connect it to the grid would be much more substantial. And also the noise generated,
Yeah.
would also be something
Yeah.
to consider as well.
The noise generated from a solar array.
Yeah.
Commercial solar arrays, yeah,
Yeah.
can emit like a low frequency that
But
is
again, we're not,
vulnerable.
we're not talking about roof mount, we're not talking.
No,
about
no,
mounting on a
commercial solar
person's
arrays, so
roof.
like, you know, we're talking like acre
Farms.
Right,
Yeah, the phone.
solar farms, they do produce noise, which is why one of the ordinances actually had, noise regulations. I remember.
Right. No.
Yeah, no.
I think that's schools. They were in this
I mean, this is something that I'm gonna come back to with
And
the,
White Township.
with the data centers, but if we're concerned about noise, let's regulate noise. And if we're concerned about very large solar arrays, maybe we can just regulate very large solar arrays. And let,
Well, I think the intent, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the intent was to make of this exercise was to recommend an ordinance to council that would allow for rooftop mounted solar in Frenchtown, because we thought that we didn't have it in there. Who knew that we had a sentence? And, you know, and now knowing that we have a sentence, you know, do it in an intelligent way.
Yeah.
So that it is, you know, I'm not sure we want to go down the road and start talking about, you know, where there might be a solar farm, space to put a solar farm in Frenchtown, whether or not it would hum loud enough to annoy the neighbors. If we're just looking at rooftop mounted solar, which, you know, last night I talked to Darlene, she's like, if we can just get the rooftop mounted solar, that would be great. Maybe if we can just sort of funnel this into rooftop mounted solar so that it is
Manageable.
it is manageable, and we have some constraints on it so that, you know, you can't, you know, you have to keep height in place, and you have to try well, I think Holland, yes, I know you wrote the ordinance, but to the extent possible.
It was over there.
To the extent possible, try to, you know, not have it glare on your neighbors and that sort of thing. Maybe that's what we really
Good stuff.
focus on.
Yeah, I think it's certainly fine to proceed kind of incrementally and do what's like easy and gonna be most relevant, because it's the rooftop arrays that are gonna be most relevant in the short term. But I agree with you, Ted. I don't think we should be saying, you know, if you wanna put a rooftop array in your house and just sell all the power, that should be up to the property owner.
Except that our master plan talks about, we have goals about becoming a sustainable community, right? And I could think the question is selling it outside of the borough. I mean, is that sustainable? You might say yes, I might say no. I mean, I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I think it's, you know, it's different. It's different to say we're gonna put these panels on my house and sell it to someone in Holland than
Yeah.
having it here in the borough.
But maybe on a net basis, it's supports sustainability because it's still.
But that's not what our master plan says. It's about a
It's about
sustainable community.
Frenchtown.
Right,
All
right.
right, yeah, that's.
I mean, and maybe at minimum is the property owner has to disclose where the power is going.
But do they know?
Sure,
Yes.
I mean, you sell to but do you,
Well, you're either getting
Sell
some of
to-
it yourself,
Well,
you're either
selling.
getting some of it yourself,
Yeah.
or you're shunting it all.
right, but you don't know exactly where it's going.
No,
It just
It's
goes
going
back to the conglomerate.
the grid.
Yeah, the grid.
Closest,
Yeah.
right to your neighbor.
I don't know, I think they're already here, so it's just a matter of cleaning it up.
and then if we do focus on roof mounted, does that mean that people lose the ability to do ground mounted? Because currently we allow it as an
No,
accessory.
we do not, we do not allow
It
ground mounted.
specifically says just,
Roof mount is the only thing we allow.
great,
So some of the questions I think before us have to do with height.
Yes.
I think, do we want to allow it, which it seems like we already do, on both primary structures as well as accessory buildings? If I understood you,
Yes.
which I think is appropriate, if you want to put it on your garage,
Right.
if you want to put it on your shed, if you want to put it on your barn, I don't see any problem with that. You know, I think we are gonna have to struggle with the height limitation. I think we do want to hold the height at the height for the zone.
Mhm.
So if your zone says, buildings can be no more than 35 feet tall and your building's already 35 foot, then your solar panels aren't gonna be able to stick up over that.
You're all gonna hate me after this meeting. If. Do we care about 6 to 8 inches, right? If it's limited to being 6 or 8 or whatever we choose inches off the surface of the roof, how much do we care if buildings go up 6 inches?
Oh, we have debated inches many, many times on many, many buildings, mostly not residential buildings, but this is,
Piece of a fire,
yeah, a half foot becomes,
higher than equipment.
yeah, I mean, that has been an issue that we've dealt with.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
The fire trucks that we have in this area, that,
have limitations on height.
got it.
But 16 inches is not much to your point, really. And I don't know what the normal
Right,
practical,
right, that's what you'd have,
You
like,
know-
on a residential roof.
it's
I mean,
probably
I
not
saw
fitted right on the shingles.
One of the
to begin
counts is
with.
3 feet, which is
That's crazy.
So
crazy, yeah.
That's a lot, but
You know.
somewhere in here, didn't it say that it couldn't, on a slanted roof, it couldn't exceed the peak?
Yes.
Yes,
One
one
of
of them,
them have that.
says that.
Yeah,
And I was just going.
so it just comes down to the peak. So it's not affecting,
Yeah.
if you're looking at the
Yeah.
front of the house, you're not seeing the solar panels
Very.
shove up from the back, which is affecting the architectural appearance,
Okay, which sure.
Yeah.
you know?
Limited to say.
And it's viewscapes, it's all kinds of
Not much.
things, you know?
I think we should, in terms of the height issue, I think we should also consider what is standard in the industry when they're mounting these things. So we don't,
Yeah, most of them are below the peak.
no, that's fine. That's not, I'm just talking about the height issue.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what it is either.
I don't know. I've seen 10 inches.
Yeah.
I think the 3 feet, as I said, that might be where you've got
A flat roof, I think.
either a flat roof or you've got, a sloped roof this way, but your panels have to be
Right.
facing that
Yes,
direction
so-
because your roof faces the wrong direction. But I think maybe looking into what is standard is,
Yeah, I think that's prudent.
And to your earlier point, if these are all saying 6 to 8 inches,
Yeah,
probably 6 to
maybe,
8 inches
yeah.
is fine.
Yeah, that's probably maybe why they're saying this.
I think the only time they get different is when you tilt them.
Yeah.
So when you tilt them to a southern exposure and you tilt, that's where they get a little bit of height. Not that you can see it from our school or from the apartment buildings on A Street, or not that you're gonna see that, but that's the only time that I've ever seen them get more than that 8 or 10 inches. And there are systems that actually articulate too.
Yeah.
And will rotate to the sun.
so since Darlene's gonna have to cobble this together, I think the things that we are liking are minimizing the to the
extent reasonably.
to the
possible.
extent reasonably, there we go. That was Holland Township, whatever I did with Holland Township. To the extent reasonably possible, shall be oriented and or screened year round so that the glare is directed away from adjoining properties and streets. That was Holland Township G.
And one of the things said, had the phrase year-round vegetative screening, which I thought was. Oh, Brad made a face.
I don't know, I mean, I don't.
I think that was for ground.
Ground.
Uh, So if you've got a solar farm, I mean, you see this if you go up,
Yeah,
if you go up 12, that big solar farm that they put in there right before Baptist Town, they put in a huge vegetative screen there so that you can't see it from the road once that.
But you were saying a screen so there's no glare. How do you do that on a rooftop system? Is that what you're talking about applying it to?
I mean,
a
if we're
rooftop
talking
system?
about, we can't have fences higher than whatever it is, 6 feet.
6 feet.
So seems like
Shall
vegetation.
be oriented so that the glare is directly avoided
Oriented,
without the
yeah.
screening, oriented but not screened. Because if we're talking just rooftop, then you're right, screening, it doesn't make any sense. Both, which is already in our ordinance, both primary structure and accessory structures.
Yeah.
We need to look at the height question. About, 6 to 8 inches.
I I just skimmed all four. I don't like, the one talks about within 10 degrees of the roof. No one wants 2 degrees.
No.
That seems silly. The
Seems
other one
excessive.
says 3 feet, that's excessive. Knowlton says 8 inches. And I didn't get a chance to. Do the house. But I can look and see what's I'll figure it out.
Sorry, just to make sure I understood you, you were saying on a flat roof, you might have something angled up.
I've seen that,
And these panels
Yeah.
are, how big are the, like,
18 inches or so, right, Vinny?
18 high.
How big are normal panels, 18 by,
I'm not sure of it, but a commercial one, I mean, it's 3 feet, but like 2 by 3 feet, maybe.
2 by 3?
Yeah, fairly
Okay.
large.
Yeah.
cause I was gonna say if they're like 4 by 8, then I could see how they would get easily
Yeah.
3 feet up if you were anything like that. And on a flat roof where no one can see it, it might not.
It's gotta be able to pick
Do
it
we
up,
need
yeah.
something separate for flat roofs?
Yeah.
And we're gonna need something
Right,
separate.
because a flat roof, they're not gonna necessarily lay
They're
them.
not gonna be
Flat,
6 to
they're
8
gonna
inches, they're gonna be chipped.
And I think that's why you see 3 feet on a lot of these
Yeah, less
ordinances
than 3 feet. Knowlton.
to allow for the tilting.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna need to separate it into flat roof and non-flat roof.
Randy, on your list, it sounds like people also like the Blairstown architectural consideration.
Yes, the Blairstown architectural considerations, which was Blairstown,
I kind of like the Blairstown thing also about, well, never mind, that's ground array, about the front yard, but.
oh yeah, no, there's
We're
some
not
really
talking
good,
about
I thought they had some good stuff
Yeah,
about
there
ground
is
array,
stuff.
but we're not doing ground array right now.
Darlene, I'm actually doing a couple solar jobs right now. I can talk to the solar guys about standards for commercial buildings.
Okay.
About height and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
get you some details.
That'd be great, thank you.
Do we wanna leave in, go ahead, Ted.
I have one more annoying question, which is balcony solar is something that is becoming common if someone
Yeah.
plugs in balcony
Say
solar
Balcony, okay, yeah.
and plops the panel on their roof. Does that count as roof mounted? Are we concerned about that? Are we totally fine with it? If you do we have anything against balcony? Oh, sorry. Balcony solar is, it's just a panel that you can plug into your wall outlet.
And like
Really?
literally put on your balcony,
Right.
hence the term, so it wouldn't
Uh,
necessarily.
Sort of like the ones you take backpacking with you.
Yes. Or if you put it in your backyard, like it's temporary, it's not permanent. Does this,
I think it's temporary,
Matter-
it's not permanent, it's
Right.
amendment.
Yeah,
okay.
It only matters if your neighbor calls the zoning officer.
Good point.
No, well, and they're gonna call, they're gonna object to that as much as they can object to you hanging towels over your balcony railing
Yeah.
or
But not-
having an ugly umbrella, because
Great
it's
idea.
not a permanent installation, it's a temporary installation, it's like plugging in a fan. It is, I looked at this years ago, they weren't quite available yet, but there was a promise that you could get, wind turbines that you could plug in.
Huh.
And you, the same thing, you just plug it into your outlet. It never came to fruition, at least not
Not yet.
not that I found, but I was like, that would be really clever.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't think it's temporary.
All right, I'll go and buy one.
So what the heck else was I going to say? There's something else in mind. Do we want to stick with, whatever we say, whether it's 6 to 8 inches or 3 feet for, flat roofs? No higher than
Oh, whatever the building height is for the zone.
building height for the
Yeah.
zone. And or not sticking up above, in a peaked roof situation, not sticking up above the peak. Cause I know I've noticed that on quite a few homes where the panels are, they just stop a couple inches down from the peak, so that they're not visible from an architectural point of view.
Is it bad if we gave them 35 feet plus 8 inches? In other words, if they have a 35-foot building and they want to put solar on it,
right,
I don't see the disadvantage that 35 feet, you're not gonna see 8 inches anyway.
right.
And it's really, it's not the building, right? It's like an HVAC unit.
Yeah, like an HVAC, yeah.
No, I think you have a good point, especially what were you talking about, Gene, it helps our we shouldn't undercut our ability to support our sustainability goal for the sake of, something like that. So I think that's a good idea, John. Yeah.
Because we do have several buildings that have gone in, over the many years that are right at the peak of the allowable height in that zone. And,
Art theater.
yeah, that would, now they do, I think they have mechanicals, but don't
They
they?
do, yeah.
So would, from a, from a height
So,
point of view, it would be considered a mechanical?
we have a height exceptions section. And that deals with air conditioning units, skylights, cupolas, chimneys.
Cupolas, really? Huh,
And so all of those items on non-residential buildings may be erected above the height limits prescribed by this chapter, but in no case more than 20% of the maximum height.
yeah. 20%, good.
That was very generous.
Yeah. Can we put a clause on that
So I think
for,
we could say, if we find out they're 3 feet.
for
standard,
solar,
then we could say.
for
they
solar,
can
the
exceed
exception
height
is 3 feet or something like that. Does that make sense?
That would be fair.
Cupolas. Huh.
I love a good cupola.
I love it. I really like cupola. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, we're gonna put a cupola.
Blairstown residential requirement, the roof line installation. It's Blairstown, it's 19611 C. A.
Well, we're gonna- Yeah, but the 10-degree was,
That's just to allow for a slight pitch, I guess, to catch the sun. And you're not gonna see 10 degrees is, especially if you limit the height to say, I don't know, 8 inches and then another 10 degrees, it's not gonna really make a huge difference.
Mine.
so do we want to also put in the wording that Blairstown has, that once we define it, no site plan shall be required for said
Right, it
installation?
keeps it away from the sides and the front, so you can't see the panels from the street or.
Yeah.
I would say that a zoning permit can be issued if you meet, so most of my towns, if you meet all our standards for,
Just get a zoning
go
permit.
get a zoning.
Right.
permit.
Okay,
Do you have to notify neighbors?
No,
No.
not for a zoning permit. Now, if they can meet one of these standards, then they're seeking a variance application.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, can these go in a historic district or is there?
Sure, think so. Why don't see why that would be precluded in a historic district?
They're inherently beneficial use.
Here we go. I knew there was a phrase that. Looking at other things that I highlighted. One of the things that I had circled, but I think it has to do with solar farms. Obviously we'll need some decent definitions in there, what constitutes.
Solar panel.
A solar panel, solar array. I was looking at it particularly with Holland because any solar energy system, minor, it's just like you.
That, don't forget, because they are.
I understand it.
Farms.
But definitions are always.
Yeah, they didn't have, I thought that too.
Because we stumble every once in a while
Yeah, no
when
definition.
we're trying to interpret an ordinance and then we realize we've never
Yes, okay,
defined.
we can do that.
I mean, we're talking about photovoltaics here, right? Like, we're not
Mhm.
talking about, you've got a hot water system on your roof.
Right, well. Yes,
Unless we are talking about hot water.
I always bring up the year that we got in trouble from disallowing ice cream in the borough, just, we just have to define things carefully. Boy, will we hate it. Cause clearly the planning board hated ice cream. Yeah, that's all I got. Any other thoughts on the subject, folks? I think so. So you're gonna cobble something together for us, Darlene?
Mhm.
All right. Nice. All right, so. That's all we've got for roof mounted solar. And let's move on to data center ordinance. Contemplation. By the way, Darlene, I do appreciate the range of ordinances that you found for us regarding, both the roof mounted solar as well as the data centers, so that we would have, a wide range of ordinances to sort of, take a peek at, some different options.
Early, where's the township of White?
Warren County.
Warren?
White,
Okay, oh, right below it, I guess.
see here,
Yes,
Yeah,
is it really? I
yeah.
did not know that.
yes, Jeff,
Um,
we used to work there. Like,
Oh, I didn't know that.
oh, yes.
That must be, it's Greenwich. And Jean, I did make a copy for everybody, but she did also, send Sam and I an article. Oh, what was this out of?
And just spotlight.
There we go. Towns use home rule to block data centers as Dr. Allen Cheryl. So it doesn't say a great deal of depth, other than the fact that, you know, there's been pushback, there's a lot of public pushback against data centers in communities. Yeah, I'll hand it to you. And Andover, which I think we have Andover, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, so Andover is being challenged, facing legal action. The developers are saying their decision was arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable. So I'm pass that around. Now Andover. Andover was the one that allowed it. And then immediately turned around and disallowed it. So they're probably in a pickle of their own making.
Greenwood was another one I sent you where the same thing occurred,
Yes.
and one of your neighbors just did the same thing. Or was in the process of doing the same.
Oh, so Milford had it.
I heard Holland's doing it.
Milford or Holland. There we go.
Milford never permitted it.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah, I heard about it because Dan told me.
And that's an awkward thing for a municipality, for a planning board, for a planner, to discuss the inherent usefulness of it, and then a couple of months later have to discuss why you have to
Yeah.
change the ordinance the other direction. Wait, you're the planner for Holland, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes, fine.
Is the interest of a resolution or the interest here in ordinance?
I think you have to do an ordinance to prohibit it, I think.
Yeah.
I would have for the
Well,
council.
Millville's got a resolution.
Milford's
I
got,
mean,
they did an ordinance, I know.
Millville has a,
Millville did a resolution.
yeah,
Yeah.
Milford Borough, I talked to their mayor.
yeah.
They went ahead and just did an ordinance
That should
for
be
their
in the
borough.
packet.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yep, we got it.
And then I had talked to Holland's mayor and he said, well, they had it, it was allowable until they decided not to, or trying to not allow it.
And Millville says that, a corresponding resolution is being adopted referring this ordinance to city planning board to review. So they passed the resolution, I guess, with the intent of an ordinance.
Yeah, and I just want to say right at the beginning, let's start where we are right now. This is not an allowed use in the
Right.
borough. So we have a limited budget for the planner to do ordinances. You need to write an ordinance for something which is not allowed right now.
So one of these, and I don't remember which one of these in my fist, because I was reading them this morning over coffee, but one of them, which I really liked, was it Washington Township? It was just like, whatever you call it,
It's not allowed.
it's not allowed. Because one of the things that Darlene had explained to us is that some developers are saying, oh, we're putting in a warehouse. Oh, look,
That's
now it's a data center. Oh, we're putting in a barn, you know, it's a data center. Yeah, they're shoehorning it in under other uses. So I think we can make it fairly simple, but I think we need to be clear.
And this was
On it.
as clear as could be,
Then,
Yeah.
you know, if we're gonna do that, then I'm not,
Which one was that one?
you know,
Washington Town.
Washington.
if we're gonna do that, then I think we should do it in a way that allows it in an appropriate context for Frenchtown and not prohibit it outright, because, you know, this is an important technology. It's building those facilities is, you know, good. Yeah, they don't employ people long-term, that many people, but building them is an important industry. And the technology is evolving and getting smaller and more efficient all the time. So there's a number of properties here in Frenchtown which, you know, are maybe very good candidates for a small facility. So I don't think we should just outright ban something, which would help keep the property, you know, producing property taxes. And rather than, you know, and that, because we're not getting a hyperscaler system that draws a gigawatt of power, which, you know, that's one of these enormous structures that takes up many, many acres. That's not coming to Frenchtown right now.
So John, if we exclude it, they can still come before us.
Yeah.
For a variance and an application where we would get to vet it and we would get to control it.
Sure.
And I don't see the disadvantage of just not allowing it at all.
Brad, what are you hearing, what's council hearing from residents?
They, most people say they want to ban it.
Yeah, and I can understand why people are saying that, because AI has become a focus for a lot of anger about AI, the technology, and all a whole host of sort of related issues. But I think the case for not banning it and saying, well, you can just come before us and ask for a variance is now you're imposing a burden on that applicant
Yes.
to go through an expensive, time-consuming process.
For something that we would have then control on what it looked
We
like.
can still have that control through an ordinance, though.
I think a lot of what we're seeing in the one article that Randy mentioned too, is that a lot of towns are looking at bans because, the impacts are still kind of emerging. And it's almost more like a pause. Let's have a pause until we can really better understand how to accurately, adequately regulate it. And so it seems that's certainly Millville, because they have a very controversial site going on there. There's a couple other places, and also because a lot of the planning community is talking about how these things are being built on stack as warehouses, and then they're a data center. So I guess I would caution to think that a ban's forever. Bans are never forever.
Yeah, I think if we put a ban in, that's it.
No, I don't think that's true,
Because
John, because this
changing-
is moving so
changing that-
quickly. No, this is moving so quickly.
Yeah.
And we're gonna
But-
see more guidance coming out from the state, more guidance coming out from the planning community in terms of
Then-
how to accurately and appropriately regulate
Then
it.
let's wait to do an ordinance, because it's already a prohibited use. It's not an allowed use. And, you know, okay, yeah, I understand the scenario where somebody's gonna try and sneak it in under the radar, but that's not likely.
But our ordinance doesn't even define what a data center is at this time.
Right.
So we have no definition for what it is. So because we don't define it, then we're not prohibiting, it's not, you know, if they're like, oh, it's not a data center, it's just
It's a place that processes information.
information. Yeah.
As the technology exists today, is that something that Frenchtown, you mentioned the master plan before, like, is that something that we really want in this?
I'm not against it in principle. I don't think it's, the likelihood of
Of it
something like it
coming here.
coming here is essentially zero, as data centers are configured right now, because they have to be huge,
yeah.
et cetera. But what do you think the number one research priority at NVIDIA is? It's how do we make these things run cooler, take up less energy, because that's constraining compute. If we can make it run more efficiently, we can get more compute for the same, you know, gigawatt or whatever.
So
Ted had actually, this Ted had a point, and then that Ted has a.
Oh, yeah,
point.
differentiate. So,
Our office is counsel to the Washington Borough Land Use Board, which this ordinance went before the Land Use Board for a consistency determination. And there was a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth as to how do we narrowly tailor the definition of data center so that and there was a lot of productive discussion regarding, and I think, you know, for lack of better words, one land use board member called it a mom and pop data center. But there are certain facilities which do exist that are less than 10,000 square feet, that are less than 2,000 servers and draw less than like 100 megawatts of power. So, you know, the land use board actually tasked me specifically to narrowly tailor that definition, even though our suggestion to Borough Council was rejected. It still reflects the fact that these are some things that can be changed with input from this board and from Borough Council, so that we can recognize that the data centers that exist now should be prohibited, while also recognizing that on a smaller scale, it's something that could fit in to the borough. And to the point of it, whether it's necessary to have an ordinance versus just leave it as is, my recommendation would be to have that ordinance in place. Specifically because, as Randy mentioned, it gives the municipality at least some control over the design of the building, and you know, imposes further restrictions, and you know, imposes a lot of restrictions on the relief that an applicant could be seeking if they just so happen to come before the board for variance application.
In looking at sorry, Ted, other Ted had a comment, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So I guess I am a software developer, and it's very interesting to me, the parallels between this kind of code and the kind of code that I write. We have I guess a concept, don't repeat yourself, call it dry, keep it dry. Where don't say the same thing in multiple places in the code base if you can say it one time and just reuse that, right? And looking at all this, keep wondering, and this is what I alluded to when we were talking about solar panels, if the concerns are water use, noise, heat, pollution from on-site generation, right? These are a lot of the things that are really harming the communities where these are being built, and especially the building process itself, right? Not necessarily even the running of the data center, because once it's all in, it seems like they're often self-contained. There's issues with failover, electricity spikes, et cetera.
Associated with it, so.
But the building process
Recommended, right?
seems like it can be really horrendous for the communities. If there are ways that we can regulate these things individually so that it just applies to everything, so that when the next new big technology comes in where they're trying to do something that we all hate, we don't need to scramble in the same way. We already say, you can't wreck our community while you're building your new, you know,
Thing.
frogulator or whatever. I guess, is that not a thing that we can do? Can we not just say, like, you can't use all our fresh water on?
Well, I think we can, you know, set out parameters like we're not gonna enter into any NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, which have
Yes.
embroiled a number of communities in really very, you know,
Is
really
that something that we can do?
controversial
do here?
things. What?
Is that something that we can do here?
I don't know, I think we can have a policy that says we as a board and as a council are not gonna enter into NDAs, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, I just think we need to be careful about, you know, spending resources, regulating something which is not really an issue for Frenchtown.
What, I think,
So
go ahead.
I was recently at this National Association of Counties convention in New Orleans. And one of the panels was on, there are a lot of AI and data centers, and one of the commissioners was the panelist from Loudoun County, Virginia, which is the
Yeah,
data center
yes,
capital
yeah.
of the United States.
Yeah.
And they initially went into this because they wanted to be the leaders and they were concerned particularly about New Jersey. Virginia said they were gonna outpace New Jersey and other states, they were gonna get the business first. And they have a lot of regrets post, because while they did, it is low traffic, things of that nature, when you build the data center. A lot of these warehouses started popping up and some of them started being converted into data centers. But they said it's fundamentally changed their community. And in some cases, because the zoning didn't catch up with the technology and the build outs.
Right.
You know, you could have a subdivision of homes and they're in their backyard now. They're looking at a massive warehouse and it hums all day long. And there's other, ramifications. So her takeaway that she was new to their commissioner board and she said she wasn't there during decision-making process, but was proceed slowly because the technology has outpaced land use, it's outpaced the power systems, it's outpaced the water systems. And you need to wait for that stuff to catch up with this technology that's ever present from a.
And it's kind of outpaced like traditional local governance. I mean, our laws and zoning aren't even keeping up.
Yeah,
So last meeting, I said, can we pass a temporary ban so that we have time to actually figure out what things are gonna look like? I mean, I don't know, I work for Google, so I'm hesitant to say anything on camera, but
Google was at the convention too,
yeah, but
talking about data centers.
I guess
They
what
would-
I don't understand is, is just to kind of peel back the onion a little bit on John's point, which is it's not allowable use now. So do we already have a ban?
In effect, we do.
Do
The
we? Is
concern
that
is-
accurate? Is
The
that?
concern is it could come in under the radar.
It
yes.
could come in under the radar.
Yeah.
So, top concerns that I have, from the, first of all, just going back to the master plan, if I were to put an umbrella over the master plan. The master plan is to keep Frenchtown looking like Frenchtown, a humming data center. But we like the sound of cars going over the bridge. That's an interesting hum. The hum of a data center, maybe not so much. We're looking at several ordinances here, which a couple of these are municipalities who said, yeah, data center with all these restrictions already written in, and then within months went, no, we're tearing up that ordinance and we're having to do a reversal. So these are municipalities that were like, yay, data center. No, not data center. And now their planners are trying to figure out how to do that U-turn without them being considered doing something illegal. I think we can take some lessons from them. Most of these municipalities are also much larger. I looked up how many square feet and how many residents most of them had, and most of them are much larger than us. Washington Borough is only 2 square miles. Milford's not a whole, I didn't look up that, we know what Milford looks like. I didn't look up how many square miles Milford is. But most of these are much larger than us. So we're looking at municipalities, because things are moving so quickly, that they're having to reverse themselves, and that is reversing yourself in a very, very short period of time in that manner is never good planning, and it's not good governance. So I think we want to be cautious about it. One of the things that I noted, just because it's my level of expertise, is 2 of these, if it's Lopac Kong, and I forget who the other one was. Their setbacks are all over the place, from like 10 feet to 25 feet with landscaping. It takes 30 feet of solid landscaping to have any effect on noise at all. You don't put up a row of white pines and be like, yay, no noise. That doesn't happen. You need a lot of space, and it needs to be very densely planted. So if you have a 25-foot setback, unless you're planting dense shrubs up to the edge of the building, you're not really buffering that sound. So they're not really thinking about that. I was curious if you ran this also past the environmental commission, if they had thoughts.
I did, I did not get the kind of feedback that I got for the solar.
Oh, did they shrug?
I don't remember any specific,
Okay,
I think
I could,
speculating, probably to John's point, there's probably, well, maybe it's a low risk for Frenchtown, but when you look at the power, what's done to the power grid and the demand, I mean, people are seeing astronomical power bills, and it's because there's a massive demand
Right.
for existing data centers. The infrastructure grid is very old in the country. We haven't built new power plants. And I think that alone, to me, is a real issue for building any more data centers until that gets rectified, because the American consumer are dealing with huge power increases in
Right.
their bills and paying for it because
well, we have a
It's
heat wave,
stretched.
if you wind up with rolling brownouts.
you get that. I mean,
because you got a dam-
JCPenney has enough trouble as it is with, storms.
Yeah.
and,
Brad, when you've heard from residents and you had said before that what you're hearing mostly is people saying that they want to ban, like what? Is it for those kinds of reasons? Is it like? This is not what.
affordability issues
about?
usually we hear about, like, it's gonna do something to the water quality in the area,
Yeah, okay,
right? Cause there's a lot of covers.
right.
And then the power demand.
Power.
And then also was just concerned about. But an old site in Frenchtown be converted into one of these.
Right.
That's,
Right.
what I hear, but, I don't, no one knows all the nuances of this. I don't think it's just the high level.
Right.
This is what we're hearing. This is why we don't think it fits in Frenchtown. And I thought, Milford had a good line there, but they say in their limitations shall not apply to hospitals, public safety facilities, and public utility,
Yes.
which kind of, addresses, we were concerned about. I know where there's conversation. Is the data center here that belongs to the, or
Phone building.
phone, is that a problem now? And no, Milford's addresses
Yeah, the
that.
people next door are used to that air conditioner running 24
Yeah.
hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there a long time.
Yeah.
It's existing infrastructure.
That's what would happen. You'd have cooling units running all day long.
Right.
Yeah, so you can have noise controls and limitations if you want to have an ordinance. We have a number of properties in town which are encumbered by being in the flood zone, which makes it difficult, if not impractical, for residential use, unfortunately. But might be great for an industrial use, like, quote unquote, a data center. A small scale, though. This is not, the acres and acres, that's not going in. Yeah.
So I wanted to understand your point, John, before, when you said. I'm trying to remember how you said it, that they could, even if we had a ban, they could still come to us. So is that consistent with how Washington wrote their ordinance? I think it is, but I'm not sure.
Not sure either.
I think,
So you
I
speak
think
of
it's a
area?
question for a planner, so if Washington ordinance says
It's a prohibited.
that it's a
use.
prohibited use, can they still come before us for a variance?
Yes.
Yeah, just like the ice cream shop
Right.
was going to come before us years ago, because we didn't say,
Use, I can still come for a D1 use variance. I've
Yeah.
got a very difficult road to
Yeah.
hoe.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of different groups come before us for D1 variances over the years for various businesses and various things. D1 variances it is a difficult.
It's a higher bar.
It's a higher bar, but we have had applicants come before us with that bar many times. And a D1 use variance, that's when you have to step down because you're the mayor.
Right.
Because if they
can appeal to the governing
they can
body.
appeal to the governing body. So when we have a D1 use variance come before us, that's when council member and the mayor has to step down because they can't adjudicate it and then also be on the Board of Appeals, if you will. So, I mean, we've had a lot of that.
I kind of agree with Vinnie. I feel like the language in the Washington one is elegant and clear. And I like that in the whereas is what it sort of refers to is that at the point in time of where we as a society are right now, there's so many unknowns. So we're gonna say it's a prohibited use, and that can change as.
Yeah, it's actually a standard form that was sent out to
Oh, is it?
all the municipalities in Warren County.
From
by the
like
Warren
the-
County Planning
from the
Board.
county
department.
County, yeah.
I might suggest if we were gonna use something like that as a template. To maybe steal a little bit from Milford with the, include in commercial co-location facilities, cloud computing facilities, server farm, they have that little.
Currency mining.
They have that little,
List.
And I like their limitation carve out for the public safety, public utility.
yes, absolutely, I thought that was I liked that. Because I think this is something, I think we simply need to proceed with caution, I think we need to start with the, you know. I like the way Washington's done, I agree with you, it's elegant, I hadn't come up with that word for it, but I do think it's elegant. And it has the
No,
caveat,
it's not Washington, it was the county.
but they have the caveat, in light of these significant changes in confluence with modern advancement in technology, scientific and environmental, which would allow the borough, without tying itself in knots, in the future to be like, okay. Now that there's a little water under the bridge and we understand this technology better, you know, we can add this into the ordinance and make this allowable with these caveats, because at that point, we'll actually understand what the caveats are that we want to put on.
Randy, what's the provision in Milford that you like?
Oh, just the very last paragraph on page 1 where they,
Oh,
put in all the.
Cloud community. or
Yeah,
cloud
social
computing.
media, okay.
As well with the, this does not apply to hospitals,
Yeah,
public safety
okay.
facilities or public utility infrastructure.
I mean, I think within 5 years, some of this stuff will start to resolve itself.
Oh, I think so.
I do, because I think it's just where things are going. But they have to address water and power on their own.
So I would tell you, I actually toured a data center on Friday, completely unrelated to all
Yeah.
of this. And the developer, so that site was built 10 years ago, so it is a water cooled facility. The developer told us that all their new data centers are going to be air chilled. And so of course, the question was, okay, so then what's that translate to? They said, well, more power
Yeah.
consumption.
It probably raises the ambient temperature
Yeah.
of the surrounding area.
Yeah.
So it was interesting,
Yeah,
because
true.
they said, we understand towns are very worried about water consumption. I'm thinking, so you're just taking one concern and translating it to
Yeah.
a different concern.
Yikes.
Now I will tell you, we, for the whole facility, and we stood. Outside of the 2 utility yards, so one was the cooling yard, one was the power substation. And the walls, I don't remember how thick the walls were, but you could not hear any humming when you were outside of them. So I do think a lot of it has to do with design.
Right.
And not allowing just condensers outside of the building or on the roof. The fact that we were standing there, the road noise was louder than anything we could hear from the building. So I do think that.
But this was a building, this was not a converted building.
Correct,
This was
it's a data
building
center from
that
day
had
one,
been
one
built
hundred percent.
for that use.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is interesting is either last week or the week before, New York State put a moratorium on hyperscale data
Right,
center.
Yeah.
Because they too are trying to wrap their arms around this because they've got, I guess.
That's an election in the fall too.
There's, I guess their concern is they have so many projects in the pipeline, do we really have enough infrastructure to support all this? So I think it's the sort of the perfect storm of lots of things aligning. And the developer admitted to us that technology is evolving, to the point that they may not look the way that they do now, or they may not be the same size. Someone also talked about, I don't know if it's saline type solution that they use, essentially a closed loop saline solution to cool. I'm sure there's all sorts of.
The heat still has to go somewhere.
Yes.
They told us the water going in and coming out 8 degrees. It heats up 8 degrees when it goes through the system, which I thought was very interesting. I will tell you, I got to go to the New York Stock Exchange in Mawa.
Okay.
Oh, that's right, they have.
Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
A Bloomberg?
No, it's
No.
the Stock
Oh,
Exchange's main backup for New
Yeah.
York City. That place was locked down like
Yeah,
four
I got in
bucks.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, no
That's-
photos, no phone, very disappointing as a client. I'm like, I wanna take photos.
See, those are companies that spend a lot of money and
Oh.
build correctly. You know, they're gonna do all the right things.
Mhm.
There's a lot of companies that will not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. It was impressive even being 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
I think where we stand at this point, and and maybe I'm wrong, but I think where we stand at the moment is going with currently a prohibition that looks something like Washington's, that will give us lots of wiggle room to make adjustments to that moving forward once we understand the technology better. I understand your objection, John, but I'm trying to read the room and the general. The general thoughts, and I think that's where this board is landing right now.
You want to include some of the provisions that Milford had in here as well,
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to clarify
I
what
think
the center
This
is.
document is. there's no
yeah, what are we gonna
provisions.
add in from,
Sorry.
so I do, the bit with the. Not to apply to hospitals, public safety facilities, public, the very bottom of page 1,
Bottom page 1.
yeah,
that last paragraph there, you steal some things out of that.
Not, and also too, stuff on page 2 is a lot. It also kind of like delineates more than actual like. For like smaller facilities or
Yes.
something. Kind of get really granular. in the
good
description.
definition,
Yeah, so like saying like a business that has like a small server farm in a
right,
1,000 square foot room or something.
yeah,
Right,
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, because that not
Yeah.
necessarily is a data center.
right, I'm fine with that approach, Randy.
I was actually thinking about our office. We have
Yeah.
a server room
Yeah.
with one rack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be out.
Yeah, I mean-
4 racks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are servers all over the place, but it's not the principal use of the building.
No,
So you think you can cobble something together with that guidance that we can look at next month?
Yes.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
I just want to be clear, I don't think it's necessary.
And
Right now, it's a prohibited use or not an allowed use, so there's really no. You know, it's not necessary, and once we prohibit something, unprohibiting it is not very likely.
you projecting from the cannabis committee by any chance? Are you projecting from the cannabis committee by any chance?
No, that was different, that's different.
Okay,
We instituted, you know, what you want to call it, a ban or whatever, so that we would not have the state regulations and laws
Yes,
imposed on us.
I'm,
To give us time to develop it. That's.
You were forced. You were essentially
Yeah,
forced.
we had
One
no choice.
Yeah.
We had to
Do that or that.
pick A or B, so we chose the logical path.
all right, very good. That was a lot of good work, folks. Moving on to vouchers.
I'll move the vouchers.
I'll second the motion.
Is there no questions on the vouchers? Can I have a vote, please?
Peterson,
Yep.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Abstain.
Bird,
Yes,
Meyer,
Yes.
Redding. Yeah. Council,
yes,
Gabrielle,
Yes.
Stumblger,
Yes.
Yes. Moving on to correspondence, council reports and other related items. Let's go with this council report. What do we got?
Brad, help me.
Well, I think I'll defer to our administrator to talk about the tap and safe routes, because you had that recent meeting, maybe.
Prepared for this.
But I will say things are always moving forward on that front. We have all the consultants working together and talking. Beyond that, we did submit our application, 2 applications to the DOT. One was for discretionary aid money to try and be able to finish the 7th through 12th Street project outside of the safe routes. So we had a local aid grant that enabled us to resurface lower 7th Street, as well as 7th through 12th. DOT would not let us move forward on that resurfacing application because the ramps at each of the intersections from 7th through 12th have to be brought up to code. But that was part of safe routes, and they wouldn't take our word for it that we're gonna eventually get that project done. So we asked the Secretary of Transportation to award additional monies to us so we could upgrade this curb landing so we can move that project forward. We also submitted an application for resurfacing of 3rd, 4th, and 5th streets under the local aid program, as well as to do sidewalk work around town shade trees on 3rd, 4th, and 5th Street to try and address some of the walkability issues that were raised as part of all the work that's been done with age friendly. So that application submitted, we got letters of support for our application for the discretionary aid from Commissioner Board, Senator Turner, and Frenchtown School wrote a letter of support.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, good.
And just to be more
Yeah.
specific on safe routes, where that is at specifically is, it's, DOT has come back, it's been submitted to DOT. They came back with their recommendations. And really, it's just the engineering companies just hashing out those recommendations. And their goal really is to get it cleared by the end of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
approved, I should say, by the end of the year. Now, construction clearly won't be this year, but I think if that happens, I think it's safe to say it would be next year.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the hope.
there's a lot happening right now between those grants, which
No, that's
hasn't
the
been the
state,
case.
that's getting to the actual TAP grant, which is the downtown.
We have to get safe routes done first.
I understand that.
Before they let us touch tap,
These conversations include
both.
both
Okay.
grants, so they're kind of happening simultaneously. But yes, as Brad said, safe routes needs to happen first, and then TAP will happen shortly thereafter. So, but there's a lot of movement in the last, I'd say, month and a half. So which had not happened for a long period
A
of
long
time
time.
because of the right of way signatures needed. And
Yep.
stuff like that. So.
Understood.
I do have one other thing that Chris and I have been working on. The sidewalk next to Heritage House was damaged by a truck pulling up on it. This happened weeks ago, right after this big storm.
Hmm.
So we've been talking to the property owner. Chris has been taking the lead on that. And gave them, they need to fix the sidewalk. That's the bottom line. So you gave them the name, you gave them DeSapio's Construction. Did you forward the other one to him?
I
that
did,
gave you?
yeah.
Yeah,
And I just to update
yeah.
you on that, he had mentioned, apparently he wants to pave his
Yeah.
parking lot.
Pave the parking lot.
He had asked me if it was an option to pave the parking lot and the sidewalk area at the same time, so like blacktop. I looped in, Lambertville, John and I talked about it a little bit. He's backed off that, so what I learned is our ordinance says our superintendent of public works holds all of the power in deciding what's approved and appropriate. I didn't know this, it actually says that.
Okay.
So we actually have to approve anything outside of, concrete. Either way, the property owner backed off that and said, no, I'm gonna do, concrete, so it's a non-issue at this point, so. So he's working on it. Do I think it's gonna happen within the time frame we want him to? I don't know about that, but,
Right.
I'll have to come back to you guys when we get to a certain point and it's not fixed. What you want me to do about that, if anything.
Utility that ran over the sidewalk took accountability then?
No,
No,
we
okay.
don't know who that
You
is.
don't know
No.
that.
Yeah, I haven't been able
Okay,
to
there's
figure
no
that out.
camera.
Was the sidewalk cement before?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, all the blues
concrete,
down there.
but it's kind of, truck pulled up on it and cracked it
Yeah.
quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
It's really broken up. So, yeah, do we have existing enforcement mechanisms in our? You mentioned coming back before the board, but can't we take enforcement action? Against the property owner if necessary, if they don't take prompt action?
We
That,
can, but
you know.
we can also fix it ourselves and try to chase them for the money.
No. I
Because
prefer
that's
not to do
really
that.
what,
That's more of a council issue than a planning board issue.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct?
right,
Yeah.
right.
I bring it up just so everyone's aware of it, in case you notice it, you know, that it's not, there is attention being paid to it, and if people ask you about it. you can tell them, yeah, we are working with the property owner, try to get them to fix it pronto.
And we're talking about the corner of Sixth at the Homestead House.
Yeah, on the north, did I say Heritage House and the Homestead House? It's on the north side of Sixth, yeah, in front of the Homestead.
East of the.
So he's responsible to repair that side?
Yeah, property owner's responsible
And
for the side.
was it utility? He doesn't know who?
My neighbor brought to my attention, she said she saw a white truck,
Right.
you know, that looked like a utility kind of truck with a boom on it, pulled up, and we figured it must have been happening around the time after this storm,
Yeah.
to knock over a number of trees. But the property owner hasn't, he did not,
He didn't know.
it was, no, and it wasn't somebody that he hired to do
Right.
something.
So it's, I would say it's the utilities.
Yeah, but we don't know who was driving the truck.
So JCP&L typically just hires second, you know.
Yes,
other-
exactly.
It's
But they don't know, but they don't know it was him.
And the property
They
owner's
do.
been trying to run that
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I'm not even clear it was utility because this was the storm that we had trees down in that area, so it could have been a tree company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody, all best we got was a white vehicle that might have had some orange on it.
Yeah.
And they only saw it from the front, so they didn't see whether there was lettering on the side or
Yeah.
anything like that, so. I have no way of knowing, and I'll be honest with you, if I called JCP&L, I know branch.
Yeah.
We got a lot of trucks, yeah.
So, you know, but that's really on the property owner to
Yeah.
figure out, so.
That's
All
it.
right. Always something.
Do you know anything about our development in town? Anything going on?
River Mills?
River Mills?
No, not to my knowledge.
Nothing.
Nope.
Tax appeal.
They went before the county tax board. They didn't win. They did offer, so they asked for a change in how they're billed, because they were billed for individual and they want to conglomerate everything into one bill, and our tax person said, yeah, we'd be fine with doing that, but they didn't win on that the property is devalued and other things that they were trying to do.
So how long does this linger on for before someone takes action?
Forever.
Forever?
Sure. I mean, if a bank isn't calling a loan or
Yeah.
there's just,
My understanding is they have no active note on it. So we don't have like a bank to, sometimes a bank would force progress.
yeah.
The only thing, I think there was a thing in there about the town, there's something about the foundations,
Yes.
right?
Right,
Yes.
it
so
was
there
like
was-
10 years, right, Randy?
Yeah, so there was a clause that basically said that if they put in the foundations and did not build, and I don't remember what the
I'm pretty
timeline
sure it's
was,
10 years.
that the foundations had to be removed and the land had to be returned to its original state. But there have been, they're kicking it down and there have been legal moves, so I don't know when or how we trigger that. But
Yeah.
that was in the original
Yeah.
approval. Cause,
Our tax assessor advised me that because the foundation's around, she can tax it now. But it's something we haven't done. I said, go ahead and tax it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To
absolutely.
try and,
But are they up to date in paying their taxes?
they did get up to date because that was the only way they could go before the county tax board. Yeah, so they were up to date to the point they needed to be to go for an appeal.
Okay.
But I've given them, they've met with a prospective buyer. That did work in town here, and they've met with them, but the price point was not something that they thought was reasonable. And there's also, you've got the homeowners that live down there have filed their own liens
Right.
against the property, which is making things even more complicated for somebody to take over that
Right.
transaction. And every lot is his own LLC,
Right.
so.
I
For
think,
anybody that's bothered by the pillar on the corner of the property by the fin bar that's been hit and
Right.
damaged. That's in the works as well. I've spoken to the property owner. Or the developer, the Indian guy, I forget his name.
Yeah,
Is it the owner or the?
yeah, there's only two owners, is my understanding, they went from 3 to 2. At least 2 showed up to the tax board, because I met with the tax assessor and attorney after the appeal, and they said that the other partner's out now, and there's just 2 partners remaining.
So he expressed interest in fixing that pillar. Getting them to actually do it is a whole other thing, but they've gotten an official letter because it technically is a violation of our property maintenance ordinance.
Yeah,
And kind of a hazard.
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
They did finally
Yeah.
mow one, so we went after him for that.
Right, that was a
Um,
letter, an email, whatever.
The attorneys. The applicant as well as the town. We're gonna once again share the contact information for this interested developer. To see if they could come up with a number that makes sense. But
Okay.
I don't know if there's a number that makes sense to them down there,
I'm not sure there is a number.
yeah. But they continue to. Be liable for the tax,
Well, and they paid them recently.
yeah.
That's something.
Now we'll see what happens post going through the
Yes.
tax.
Car show this weekend, Sunday. I'm just figuring throw it out there. Not my car show, but just letting you know, at the old, all Fielders car show.
There we go. I should take me out of,
There you go,
the, glad so-
pop the hood.
got a couple laughs on that.
Are
Yeah,
you helping run that? No.
yeah.
Anybody would like to volunteer, I'm sure they could use more volunteers. The Legion is.
Yeah, so they got a new pontoon boat.
Yes, that's raised with money for better, they're gonna take out to go fishing.
Oh, really? Oh, neat. Yeah, I saw a part that back.
All right, we got anything from the EC, Ted?
Well, Weevilpalooza was a
It was very exciting.
100-degree smashing.
It was over 100 degrees. It was like 103 degrees when I left to go down there. That
But we
was a good
had
day.
a whole 5 people who weren't on the environmental commission or directly related to someone on the environmental commission, which I thought was a
That's great.
pretty good turnout considering.
Did you get any pictures for the Frenchtown Sun?
I didn't, but Paul Sarah, who
Some
does
pictures.
the photos on the front of the sun was there. I have some visual aids if anyone wants to see. There's a couple of these posted in the Frenchtown Preserve. There's pictures of the weevils that we released. And what they do to the vines, but definitely, there are weevils helping control this invasive now. That there were actually some before, but now there's more. Only half of them arrived, so we will be doing another small
Oh, boy.
release that won't be advertised. We'll be doing another release potentially somewhere else around town if we can find another bunch of
It probably will not be hard
yeah.
to find another bunch of. But it was actually very interesting. There was somebody who had, I don't remember who it was, but they were trying to hold the weevils to get them to crawl onto the Milo minute vine, and they were trying to get them to crawl onto a grape leaf because they weren't identifying the plant correctly, and the weevils wouldn't walk on the grape leaf. And they were like, well, it won't go on, it won't go on. I'm like, that's great. That's the Milo minute. They were like, oh, and they went over the Milo minute and the weevils took off into the Milo minute. So that was actually sort of interesting.
They're
They
very
know what they're
cool.
about.
They're tiny. If you're walking around and you see this triangle leafed vine and there's little tiny rust colored bugs 2 millimeters across on it. That's the weevils doing their job.
About the size of the head of a pin.
Yeah.
So are you going to follow up in any way to kind of assess whether or not it's working? Cause will you know in the spring, like, cause hey, this stuff's not coming back or
So
what?
it is probably just going to be here forever. It's
Yeah.
always gonna, right, the bugs are not gonna eat it so thoroughly that they eat themselves out of the food supply, but this will help limit it.
Yeah.
So if you see it and it's got a bunch of holes in the leaves and it's not covered in berries, that's because these are
Progress.
helping control.
Been eating my red cabbage in my garden.
Something else is eating.
So yeah, these things, what they do is they weaken, it's an annual plant, so it has to produce seeds every year. And the weevil, by their feeding, the immatures actually feed inside the vine. So they're even tinier than the weevils, but they feed inside the vine, so it weakens the vine, which means the vine is unable to produce very many berries. So by weakening the vine, you decrease the number of seeds that are produced, which reduces the overall population over time.
Good deal.
And then other news from the EC, I don't know, we're continuing to try and build better processes for getting stuff like that done. We, I think, are gonna maybe have alternates.
Yeah, I think it was just, there was confusion with the email that Armin sent of what to do at the last meeting, so it put everything, we did what we could.
Alright.
But then we had a conference call with your chair, trying to figure out, because there was definitely a disconnect between his email and the chair.
Yep. Okay, that's.
But I think that got rectified,
Great.
yeah.
And then I think we started a subcommittee to look at what we can do to help improve, beautify, make more environmentally sound, more sustainable Lenape Park. I think I mentioned last time here that some of the runoff from the newly paved parking area was causing some damage. The slope down from the path into the park is covered in a variety of invasive plants. Who would have thunk it? Also, all of the area outside of the fence is riddled with invasives. So, and I think the FBPA and someone else, oh, I don't remember her name offhand, who does the farmer's market, just embarrassing.
Amanda.
Thank you. We're talking to them. There's a lot of interest in like, is there a way that we could beautify and also make more environmentally friendly that park? I realize it's going to be a challenge across multiple jurisdictions, but there's a subcommittee to start finding out what that would look like.
Mhm.
So.
You have to be careful on the towpath side because that's state park property.
We would have to, anything we're gonna do is gonna need to get okayed by a lot of people.
It's about. DPW was asked to clear up some of that stuff, I guess, by the homeowners of Riverdale, so they went and did it. Got a whole bunch of complaints back, it turned into a whole thing.
Yeah.
Complaints because.
Because the DPW went and pulled stuff out.
Got a little aggressive.
They got a little aggressive, but they did it in the state and the state
Okay.
portion, right? So, and DNR.
So, the DNR, the commission is going through its master plan process. They're having public meetings right now.
Oh, did not.
Yeah. I'll send you the notice. They had one last week, and I think they have 3 more. So they're
still on top of this stuff. Really
Well, I'll
appreciate
tell you why after the meeting. Yeah, they had received a grant from the Historic Trust, to bring on the contractor. I can't remember who it's not Colliers. Princeton Hydro.
Prison Hydro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's it for me.
Is there anything else that we've got?
I know it's late. I have one question. Why are the sidewalks on Milford Parkway red?
Well,
I remember
My
that.
understanding was, this goes back to when.
John
Wagner.
Wagner.
And they want to have uniformity between the brick color on Harrison Street. And then when they were putting the sidewalks in on Milford Road, they decided to go concrete because of some of the issues with the pavers. And so they dyed the concrete. And that's how so it'd be like a red brick wall.
So it was intended to look more traditional.
Wasn't there something too, you wanted to match like the cliffs or something too, the colors?
Well, I think it was the bricks and the cliff.
Yeah, it was like,
the
the
whole
few
thing.
things you tell.
And then
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's a little like,
Some towns have a
It's like a
yellow
stamp.
brick road.
Walk down that all the time, I'm always thinking, why
Yeah.
is this red?
yeah.
It's not cherry though. Anyhow, all right, if there's nothing else,
Move to adjourn.
thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.